Hello and welcome to Out of State DMing's podcast. I'm your host, lluksblackheart. Join me today as we discuss 3.5 Dungeons and Dragons. Today we are going to continue our conversation on skills. We are going to be. If this last week we covered ride. Now we're going to be going into search. Dun dun dun. Search is it's intelligence based skill, so smart people are good at doing it. So the higher that is, the better. Pretty much generally anyone can do it. This allows you to find like complex traps. Not necessarily complex traps. If you're a rogue, you can try to find complex traps. Because a lot of the stuff is if the DC is 20 or higher for a trap, you have to be a rogue to find it because of trap finding. This generally must be within 15 feet of an object or a surface to be searched. The table does give us roughly what the DCs are for the different things. Some things may differ because if you go into DMG and look at traps, a lot of the search DCs for the traps are not necessarily on here. Some traps are obvious that anyone can find them, where other ones are, it may be a simple trap, but at the same time, DC 20 or higher search checks to find a trap. You have to have trap finding. Otherwise, you can't. So if you have like a ranger, it's like, I have a plus 10 search, I got a 25. What? Did I find any traps? Nope. He steps, trap goes off. You said I didn't find any. It's like, yeah, I know. It's because the DC's a 20, which means you need to have trap finding to find it. Some of the basic DCs are. I had to double check something and I saw something weird. Like ransack a chest full of junk to find certain items. DC 10. So it's pretty simple. Notice a typical secret door or a simple trap. DC 20. Again, rogues need to rogues and any other means that gives you trap finding. Because there is a cleric spell that lets you find traps as if you're a rogue. So it's pretty much a spell that gives you that. But again, that tells you a typical secret door or a simple trap. To find a difficult non-magical trap, rogue only. To find a magical trap, rogue only. Excuse me. So, right there, it helps clarify, so anyone reading it can see. There's like, okay, these are rogues, definitely rogues. And it does have a 1 next to those ones, which is dwarves, even if they are not rogues, can search to find traps built into or out of stone. So dwarves get to go, is it a stone trap? If yes, I get to find it. There's notice a well-hidden secret door. It's a DC 30. So it's like pretty freaking high. Find a footprint, which is has a 2 next to it because it varies. A successful search check to find a footprint or similar signs of creature's passage, but it won't let you find or follow a trail, which you need to see track for it. Actions, it's a 4-round action to search a 5x5 area or a volume of goods that's 5 feet. So you search the square, move forward, search the square, and so on and so forth, because you're searching the square in front of you. Elves get a bonus to it. Half elves get a bonus. Elves, not half elves. Elves who simply pass within 5 feet of a secret or concealed door gets a free search check to pretty much just do a glancing notice. The investigator feat helps by giving you a bonus, which is really good, because it's a +2. And like I said before, any bonus is a good bonus. The spell, it goes into like how certain spells like Explosive Runes, Fire Trap, Glyph of Warding, and Teleport Circle create magical traps that a rogue can find by making the search check. They can identify the location of a snare spell. Spike growth or spike stones create magic traps that can be found using search, but against which the disabled device checks do not succeed. See the individual spell for details on it. Active abjuration spells within 10 feet of each other for 24 hours or more create barely visible energy fluctuations. Using the fluctuations gives you a +4 on search check to locate abjuration spells being in effect. There's a lot of abjuration spells, if you go and look them up, do affect areas. And rogues, if they're too close, like I said, if they're overlapping too close, it creates that a wibbly wobbly effect that rogues can find easier. Synergy, 5 or more ranks in search helps you with survival, and 5 or more ranks in knowledge, architecture, and engineering, you get a +2 bonus on search check made to find secret doors or hidden compartments. Just like with other things there, the +2 to find secret doors or hidden compartments does not mean you get a flat +2 on search checks. It means you get a +2 if there happens to be a secret door or hidden compartment. Just make sure you have it recorded down properly. Restrictions, anyone can use search to find a trap. Only a rogue can use it to locate traps with a higher DC. And it does restate again that with dwarves, who is not a rogue, can use it to find difficult traps with the DC higher than the 20. If the trap is built out of or into stone. So right there, we established that 2 races don't necessarily need to be a rogue to find certain things. Like I said, the elves get not only bonuses, but they get a free search check just for passing by a concealed or hidden door. And dwarves get to find traps if they're made into or out of stone. So both those are really, really good. So if you don't have a rogue and you happen to be in a dungeon, dungeons are made out of stone. So the dwarf, even though he's not going to be good at actually dismantling the trap, he can help you find the traps. The next, almost said feat, the next skill is Sense Motive. It is a wisdom-based skill, and it counters bluff, which, like we said before, bluff is how good at you are at lying or deceiving people. Sense Motive is the countermeasure, which is done to counteract that. And it says right there, the DM may decide to make your Sense Motive check secretly so that you don't necessarily know whether you succeeded or not. You can use the Sense Motive for hunches, sense enchantments, or discern secret messages. Like hunch, you can use it use a skill involves making a assumption of a social situation. You can get the feeling from another's behavior that something is wrong, such as when you're talking to an imposter. Alternately, you can get the feeling that someone is untrustworthy. Sense enchantment. You can tell that someone's behavior is being influenced by an enchantment effect, pretty much a mind-affecting effect, such as like a charmed person. Even the person isn't aware of it. It's a high DC of 25. If the target is dominated, for details to look up the spell, the DC is only 15 because the limited range of the target's activities. Discern secret messages. You may use sense motive to determine that a hidden message is being transmitted via the bluff skill. In this case, your sense motive check is opposed by the bluff check of the character transmitting the message. For each piece of information relating to the message that you are missed, you get a -2 penalty on your sense motive check. For example, if you eavesdrop on people planning to assassinate a visiting diplomat, you may take a -2 penalty on your check if you don't know about the diplomat. If you succeed by 4 or less, you know that something hidden is being transmitted, but you can't learn anything specific about the content. It does also state that if you beat the DC by 5 or more, you intercede and understand the message. If you fail by 4 or less, you don't discern any hidden communication. If you fail by 5 or more, you infer some false information. So right there, you can end up either A, getting what you want, or not getting what you want. So having a decent sense motive, if you're trying to get information secretly between you and another party member, having a high bluff and high sense motive helps with that. So you guys can be literally talking about random crap, but you're actually trying to talk about your actual plan, so no one can actually perceive what the heck you're actually talking about. The next skill, Sleight of Hand. It is a dex skill and is a trained only. Armor check penalty applies, so not everyone can use it, and bulky armor does restrict it. It's a DC 10 Sleight of Hand. It lets you palm coins, unattended objects, performing a minor feat of ledger miming, such as making a coin disappear. It's also a 10 unless an observer is determined to notice where the item went. When you use this skill under close observation, your skill check is opposed by the observer's spot check. The observer succeed doesn't prevent you from performing the action, it's just doing this unnoticed. You can hide a small object, including a light weapon such as a hand axe, or an easily concealed ranged weapon such as a dart, sling, or a hand crossbow on your body. I need water. Better. Your sleight of hand check is opposed by the spot checks of anyone trying to observe you, or the search check if anyone's trying to frisk you. In the latter case, search against a +4. A searcher gains a +4 spot check, since it's generally easier to find such an object than to hide it. A dagger is easier to hide in most light weapons, and grants you a +2 on your sleight of hand check to conceal it. On extraordinary small objects such as a coin, shuriken, or a ring, you get a +4. So pretty much stating that a lot of items that are really, really small, you get a mixed bag of bonuses are. And if you have something like a bag of clothing, such as like a cloak, you can get additional +2 on those checks. Drawing a hidden weapon is a standard action and doesn't provoke attack of opportunity. If you try to take something from another creature, you must make a DC 20 sleight of hand check to obtain it. The opponent must make a spot check to detect the attempt, opposed by the same sleight of hand check result you achieve. So when you try to grab the item, an opponent who succeeds on the check notices the attempt regardless of whether or not you got the item. You can also use sleight of hand to entertain an audience as though you were using a perform skill. In such case, you act encompasses elements of letter miming, juggling, and the like, and it has a DC DC 10 for trying to palm a coin-sized object or make a coin disappear. DC 20 to lift a small object from a person. It goes into such things as what action it takes. You can attempt to have it be a free action instead of a standard action, but doing so you get a -20 to the to your check. So it is a lot harder to quickly do it than it is to normally do it. It does have room for you to try again. Yeah, and it pretty much your second attempt to try to get something does increase the DC by 10. So you can easily turn getting their coin purse from a DC 20 to a DC 30 by trying it again. Because you're more likely to get noticed the second time than you are the first time, because there's a chance they may be aware to you trying to pickpocket them at that point. If you have 5 or more ranks in bluff, you do get a bonus 2 sleight of hand. Untrained sleight of hand check is an untrained sleight of hand check is simply a dexterity check. With actual training, you can't succeed at any sleight of hand check with a DC higher than 10, except for hiding an object on your body. Which pretty much means trying to get a coin, okay, yeah, you can do that. Trying to get the coin purse, no. And it pretty much means there's no try again, because that increases the DC by 10. Now, here is probably one of my most hated skills, because to a certain degree it does, but to a certain degree it doesn't make sense. Speak languages. Trained only. Going simply by the book with no optional rulings or DM's prerogative stuff, going straight by a book. When your character is created, you get a base language based on what race you pick. So it's like humans are common, elves, dwarves, gnomes, gnome. So you pretty much get your racial language. When it comes to learning more languages, each particular race has their own list of bonus languages. It means that when you go to pick any of these, it has to come from that list. If it's not on that list, your character doesn't know it. For instance, if Draconic isn't on your list, no, you don't get Draconic, because it's not part of your bonus languages. It doesn't matter what class you pick. It's not in that bracket there, so you cannot take it. The problem individuals are humans. I say there's a problem because players don't make it make sense, because humans can as bonus languages can be any non-restricted language. That sounds awesome, and to a certain degree it is awesome, but you have to be reminded that if you're in an area that has a lack of, let's say, elves, because it either has very few elves or no elves, there's no reason anyone should be having the ability to speak elf, because there's no elves. Why would that be there? But you'll have someone going, you never know, I'm taking elf. It's like, there's no elves in this area. There's no even half elves in this area. Why are you wasting that there? There's these language here's that will actually be utilized and used. Because I can. Because that's the biggest take on humans taking languages, isn't, hey, this language makes sense for the background I'm coming in, this language makes sense because of the culture we're in, these are the languages that are mostly spoken. They go the whole, I can, so I am. Like, for instance, why the hell are you walking around trying to speak Undercommon? Why? There's no reason for it. Because no one else is going to be speaking Undercommon, so you have a useless language. And a lot of people out there, because some of you watchers may be thinking, well, what if I want to write in secret codes, and it's easier to do that if no one can read the language, because, well, it's so exclusive. It's like, yeah, but you actually have to do it. You have to have it state that these things here are written in these languages, because if you don't, it can be easily assumed that anything your character writes, anything your character writes is in in the common tongue of human, which is common. So you have to actually specifically state that. And every single time a person tries to say, well, I want to do like secret notes and stuff like that, it's like, well, you actually have to do it. And they go, I will. And then they never do it. And at the rare times that they would actually attempt to do it, it's like, here's a secret note. I give it to this player. That player looks at it and goes, I can't read this. Or if like I whisper it in this language here, it's like, everyone going, we have to cast spells to understand what you're saying, because we don't know what you're saying. So like, a lot of people who play humans try to use the whole, I'm going to speak infernal simply because I can. It's like, can I have a reason? No, it's like, your background is a simple farmer coming from a simple farmer's life. Where are you getting this ability to speak this language from that life? Because I can. It's annoying, it's irritating, and if you are those type of people, stop it. Just stop it. Take a language that actually makes more sense. Take a language that actually better fits. Because again, if you're going to try to use it for secret stuff, make sure it's something your character would actually have a chance of actually knowing. So if you're a farmer, I would probably go, oh, well, Terran would work better there, because that is the language of the earth. Farmers had a lot of stuff to do with the earth, because taking care of livestock, you're out there in the nature and stuff, you're doing farming stuff, it forms dirt. So, taking Terran. Yeah, the only people that you're going to automatically look at funny are going to be dwarves, because that's one of the languages that dwarves sometimes speak and or read, is Terran. So it's like, you're not even going to have that many people capable of like understanding what you're saying, because it's not all dwarves. Uh, or you can speak Sylvan. The typical speakers are like dryads, brownies, and leprechauns. But at the same time, that's a nature-based language, so lots of people out in nature does it. We can use this thing that sometimes a dryad visits your farm, or like we work it into like a plausible thing there. But a lot of players simply just go, no. Like in one case, there was a land where the land party was starting. There was very landlocked. There was like barely any water sources anywhere except for some like wells. There was no lakes, no rivers, anywhere. And people were like, I want to speak aquatic. Well, it was aquat. It's like, unless you guys are going to pretty much travel all these thousands of miles all the way over here, there's no one here that's going to be speaking that language or doing stuff with that language. Why? Because you never know. It's like, no, I'm the DM, I know. So it's one of those like, that think before you choose. Just because it sounds cool doesn't mean you need it, or it's even something that's technically plausible. Sorry about that rant. No actions are applicable, which pretty much means the speaking does it. There's no spoken language checks. And when it comes to learning a language, because you can start knowing one or two languages based on your race, plus the additional number of languages equal to your intelligence modifier, so you can come in with quite a bit. You can purchase a speak language by just like any other skill, but instead of buying a rank in it, you choose a new language that you can speak. You can't speak any. Well, yeah, you can't make any speak language checks. You either know a language or you don't. literate character, anyone who plays a barbarian who has not spent any skill points to become literate, can read and write any language. Uh, well, I just skipped over things instead of brain fart. You can read write any language that you can speak. Each language has its own alphabet, though sometimes several spoken languages share a single alphabet. Like Sylvan and Elf share the same alphabet, and several other ones do. But this pretty much means that when you're spending skill points, you burn a skill point and you know the language. Which means if you have extra skill points that you don't want to know where to spend them, and you're like, I'm going to spend skill points to know all these different languages so you can be the super bilingual person, or a trilingual or quadrulingual, by going, I speak all the languages in all the lands. You can. And it also means that when you get up in levels, you can just spontaneously go, you know what, I think I'm going to learn this language now. Spend it. That's one of the reasons why I don't like it, because when you're out adventuring, even in real life, it takes you time to learn a language. You have to put effort into learning the language. In the prospects of D&D, it's, I went to level 1 to level 2. We've been traveling for like 2 weeks. I spend 3 skill points. Now I know 3 languages. Not partially, not sort of. No, you fully, completely know how to read and write and speak that language. And again, you can spend multiple skill points to go, I know how to speak all the languages of all the party members. So it leaves no room for you to learn. Actually learn it properly. It's just simply, it magically is in your brain. So it pretty much takes a lot away from actual role playing, or a lot of trying to actually advance the character logically. It just simply, Puff the Magic Dragon, I know it. There is optional rules for learning languages. I like to use some of them because it makes more sense, and the players actually have to show effort into doing it. But that's where DM prerogative comes in. DMs can prerogative all they want on it. The next skill is a pretty useful skill, but for some reason not necessarily overly used. Because a lot of players see Knowledge Arcana as doing what Spellcraft does, even though Spellcraft, it's like, no, you're supposed to use Spellcraft for that, not Knowledge Arcana. Knowledge Arcana is your raw knowledge of this thing there. This can be used for all these different things here, because as you can see on this table, there's quite a bit you can do with Spellcraft. There's use it to read when using it to read magic. Okay, I thought I had a notification. Sorry about that. Read magic. Identify a glyph of warding. Identify a spell being cast. Learn a spell from a spell book or a scroll, wizard only. Prepare a spell from a borrowed spell book, wizard only. When casting Detect Magic, determine the School of Magic. When using the Read Magic, identify a symbol. Identify a spell that's already in place and in effect. Identify materials created or shaped by magic, such as noting that an iron wall is the result of a wall of iron. Decipher a written spell, such as a scroll, without using Read Magic. After rolling a saving throw against a spell targeting you, determine what that spell was. I will state that there's certain spell that it's obvious. Fireball, it's obvious that it's fireball. A fire explosion happened. Burning hands, cone of cold, lightning bolt. A lot of those can be quite, it's like, he just hit me with lightning bolt. It's pretty obvious. Other spells may not be so obvious, like identify a spell that's manipulating you, like a charm person or a dominate spell. It's like saving throw. What just hit me? This just hit me. Identify a potion, which does take a minute. Nobody tries. Draw a diagram to allow Dimensional Acre to be cast on a magic circle spell. Understand a strange or unique magical effect, such as the effects of a magic stream. Time can check. So there's a lot of random things here, and most of them is a stagnant DC that adds in the level of the spell. So the higher level spell, the less chance of you being able to identify it. And before you're asking about like the one to go, I passed the saving throw. I did a saving throw. What spell hit me? I was like, why do that if you've already passed it to identify the spell that's being cast? Well, it's because there's a difference. One, if you're not aware of the spellcaster casting the spell, unless it's an obvious spell, like I said, Burning Hands, Cone of Cold, Cold. When you make a saving throw, you can go, while pass or fail, it's like, someone just cast Dominate on me. It makes you go, someone trying to mentally take control of my mind. Versus you can see, you can hear, you see him going, would you. So the DC is different because you can actively know he's doing something instead of not knowing until the spell is actually in effect on you. So there's a slight difference there. A lot of the checks are either no check or varies from 1 minute to like 10 minutes. So time varies. Try again. Varies. Some of them are yes, some of them are no. A specialist, like a wizard because they specialize in things, get a +2 on spells to doing with your school, but take a -5 when it comes to spells from their prohibited schools. So if you're like, I got this, I rolled high, how'd I fail? Oh, it must be a prohibited school. So you can guesstimate on that. Synergies. Knowledge Arcana does give you a +2 on spell checks. Having 5 or more disabled device does give you a bonus on spellcraft checks to decipher spells on a scroll. Having 5 or more ranks on spellcraft does help you by giving you the +2 to use magical device, so that's great. Additionally, certain spells allow you to gain information about magic, provided that you make a successful spellcraft check as detailed in the spell description. Like detect magic, you're technically supposed to use it. So a lot of it can be self-explanatory, a lot of it the DM may or may not have to explain to you, but it is something that you have to have ranks in it in order to actually utilize it. This is a trained-only skill, and it's also one of those things that just off the DCs, you're going to want to have a lot in it. Not 1 or 2 ranks and then over-relying on your intelligence, but just having a lot. Because again, the lowest DC is a 13, with the highest DC being 30 or higher. And that's not even counting spell level, because like a 9th level spell at the lowest is a 24 to identify it. At the highest, it's a 34 because of that right there. So there's some points where it's like you're gonna get it, other points where you're just not, simply because you didn't roll high enough, or the DC just happens to be too high for you. The next skill is Spot. Spot is pretty self-explanatory. It's your ability to see creatures. Having a high spot doesn't make you easy at finding objects. You need search for that. Spot lets you spot hidden creatures, something lurking in the shadows, or like read lips. Pretty much like, or to see the monstrous centipede in the pile of trash. It is a wisdom check, and it's primarily used against a target's hide check. So it's always an opposed check. So if you ask for a spot check and the DM permits you a spot check, it does not mean there's something hidden there. It just means while you if you get high, you go, oh hey, you don't see anything. It again doesn't mean there's something hiding in the shadows about ready you. It just means your character doesn't see anything. The read lips, because it can be used to read lips. Oh, there's a cat playing with something. To understand what someone is saying by reading lips, you must be within 30 feet of the speaker and able to actually see them speak. And you have to actually understand the language. So, for instance, if you don't know dwarf and they're speaking in dwarf, because of lip movements, wordage is not the same as what say a common or elf, you're going to go, I don't know what language they're speaking. But you can, with beating a DC 15, understand what they are speaking. With the key thing of you have to be within 30 feet. And it's kind of like the same thing for the hidden messages with sense motive, to where you don't, if you fail by 4 or more, you don't really get what they're saying. If you fail by 5 or more, I get to completely and totally the DM gets to completely and totally make up some random thing that can be completely misread as, oh, they're going to go on a grand adventure to slay a mighty dragon. What they're really talking about is how they're going to go and convince a dragon to come burn down the kingdom. So it's what you got versus what they're going to do. It is usually, when it comes to action, a reactive manner. So, like something trying to sneak by you or move into a new area, you make spot checks without actually using an action. Read lips is a move action, and you must concentrate for a full minute before making the actual spot check. So you declare you're doing it and you're doing it. Try again is yes, but to spot something that you failed to see previously at no penalties, you can attempt to read lips once per minute. But a key thing to remember is, unless for some weird reason that this is one of those catch-22s of, just because you failed to see the creature sneaking doesn't mean you know that the creature is still there trying to sneak, because that's the player going, okay, there's obviously something sneaking, I gotta make another spot check. So if the DM says, no, there's no reason for you to make another spot check, it's because it hasn't done anything to trigger a spot check. It didn't leave your peripheral and then re-enter your peripheral. It didn't jump out, go, and then hide. It's just being there hiding. So if it leaves and re-enters, I can see you getting another one. And that's either by it actually leaving or by you looking somewhere else and then you looking back. It's central things, like one of those make sense to why you're suddenly getting additional checks when you don't know there's something there that you need to be spotting. And a DM may occasionally demand additional spot checks as time goes on, because it's one of those, after a while you're going to notice someone hiding in the shadow. If you're sitting there standing in that direction long enough, while it's in the peripheral or not, the longer you're standing in that direction, the higher chance you are to notice something. Like, for instance, people may notice that around over here by my door, there's a Tarask figure, or at least a giant monster that can be used as a Tarask. If you didn't know it was there, it's because you failed your spot check, but some people because it's constantly there in each video in the same spot doing the same thing. Some people may eventually go, oh hey, I noticed that. So that you let the DM demand more spot checks. Don't be that guy trying to go, but we know there's something there. Players know, not the characters, therefore don't metagame that. There's several specials. There is the Fascinated Creatures take a penalty. Alertness gives you a +2 bonus on it, which is good. Elves get a bonus to it. Half-elves get a bonus to it. If you have the Hawk Familiar, so sorcerers and wizards, you get a +3 in daylight or in well-lit areas. If you have an owl, you get the same bonus in shadowy or other darkened areas. So pretty much daytime, well-lit areas, hawk. Dark time or practically no actual lighting areas, owl. The next skill is a skill that has multiple good uses, but a lot of people either don't see it that way or don't care. Is survival. Dun, dun, dun. It is a wisdom skill. A lot of people can use it, and it primarily does those things there. People get along in the wild, move up to half your movement speed while hunting or foraging. You can provide food and water for one person for every 2 points by which you get above. You exceed 10. So the higher you get, the more you can just freely feed and water the party because you find enough stuff in the environment to actually do it. So unless the environment specifically has things that counteract that, like if you're in the desert, it's going to be hard for you to find water. Or technically food in that things, because sometimes deserts are vast areas of sand. But you can also use it to get a bonus on saving throws against weather by helping the party out that way, as it directly says there. So if you're trying to move overland, you can get a bonus. If you remain stationary, you can get a bonus. And you may get the same bonus to one other creature for every 1 point above 15. So the higher you get, the more members of the party you can help. You can keep from getting lost or avoid natural hazards such as quicksand with survival. You can predict weather for the up to 24 hours in advance for every 5 points at which you check. For every 5 points you exceed the 15 for, you can get one additional day in advance on the weather. So simply just beating the DC is like for the next 24 hours we're going to be good. But if you, let's say, get a 30, well, that's 15 over 15, which means for the next 4 days, you're like, okay, I can predict like today's going to be good, tomorrow and the day after that it's going to be rainy, like heavy rain, then the fourth day it's going to be light rain. With following tracks being varied, you need to see the feet track. Because that's what, if you don't have that feat, tracking becomes really, really hard because you don't actually have the skill to track. Actions, it completely varies. And it can be 4-round action, and it may take longer, and it's mainly DM prerogative. Try again, varies. Getting along in the rod or gaining the fortitude save above. You can make a check once every 24 hours. And pretty much it applies until the next check is made. Avoid getting lost. So like a bundle of them you can, unless the DM doesn't want you to. You can. Restrictions, while anyone can use survival to find tracks regardless of the DC, or to follow tracks when the DC is 10 or lower, only a ranger or a character with a track feat can use survival to follow tracks when the DC is higher. And pretty much, like I said, in order to actually do it, you need the feat. Rangers get it for free. Anyone who takes it can do it. So simple, easy, like following Godzilla, that's a really easy thing because the DC to following him is really, really low because big ass footprints that are really deep and really big, and he has a knack for just bulldozing over things. Really easy to follow. Following a cat, not so much. So unless it's like sandy or really loose terrain, you're not really going to have any tracks to actually follow. Having 5 or more ranks in it gets you a bonus 2 to knowledge nature checks. Having 5 more ranks in dungeoneering lets you get better survival checks underground. Having 5 more ranks in knowledge nature gets you a +2 to survival above ground in natural environments. Like it says, aquatic, desert, forest, hill, marsh, mountain, or plains. Why, hello, chatter. How you doing, chatter? Gotta be weird at least once a video. Thank you for joining. If you have 5 or more ranks in knowledge of the plains, you can get a bonus to... Well, I'm happy you're here too. Any chatter here, I'm happy to see you because, well, it means I get to not talk to myself. I get to talk to the audience. Hello, audience. As I be weird again. Strike 2. If you have 5 more ranks in knowledge of planes, when you're on another plane, you get a bonus to survival. If you have 5 more ranks in search, you get an additional +2 to survival to find or follow tracks. So there's multiple things with multiple other skills you can utilize to make your chance of surviving just that much better because they help out in multiple circumstances. So just remember, if you want to be good at tracking or just good out in the wild, keep your survival high and get the track feat. That way no one can say you can't find anything. Just shame on them for doubting your skill. The next skill is pretty simple, and it's an underappreciated skill because people either assume magic's going to be used to counteract it, and or they just don't do it entirely, and that is swim. Swim is a movement skill, so when it comes to its actions, it is either a move action or a full round action, and that determines how fast you go. A move action, you move at a quarter of your speed, which how it likes to just round down to things. Pretty much in that move action, you move 5 feet if you pass the DC. If you're trying to swim as fast as you can, a full round action gets you half your land speed, which would be 15. So, like, someone trying to just do one action to do it goes 5, and then you're like, I just want to, like, be a fish, 15. Now, that may seem relatively slow, but you have to remember you're overexerting your body to move through water. And if you go, well, in real life, I can swim really fast, you have to remember this is a game, not real life. Just in real life, you're not fully limited to particular skills because there's multiple people out there that can't swim at all. They sink, or they have problems because they float, because buoyancy is a thing. There's some people that know how to professionally swim, and they can swim quite fast, and there's other people who just suck at it. And that's where the fact that there is feats that can be taken to augment this. There's feats that can make you swim faster, have a higher bonus on your checks, hold your breath for longer. There's a bundle of those feats that can do it, which when we eventually start talking about feats, feats. I'll cover the base feats, and then we'll be moving into expanded feats, because there's also expanded skills and expanded feats that I eventually will be getting onto. But we got to cover the bases first. And the basis for swim checks are right here. And it's pretty simple, because calm water, it's the easiest to swim through. It's a DC 10. Rough water, like rapids, 15. Stormy weather is a 20 with a 1. And that's pretty much in stormy water, you can't take 10. There's pretty much sometimes you can take 10 while swimming and just go, I just want to auto pass this. Boom. Right, and also right here, you have to remember this. Each hour you swim, you must make a DC 20 swim check or take a die 6 points of non-lethal damage from fatigue. Why, you may ask? Swimming is its own exercise. That's why people who do lots and lots of swimming generally have great physique, because they're exercising. The water may help them with not having lots of inflamed joints and stuff, or have as much problems if they were biking or lift weighting, but it is a very big physical activity that can help you lose weight, keep in shape. It increases your cardio. You just have to actually keep at it. Like, for instance, if I could go swimming on a daily basis, I most likely would. But gotta love weather and not being too close to spots where I can go swimming. Actions, it states right there, you can do a quarter movement for a move action or a half movement for a full round action. Swim checks are subject to double the normal armor check penalty and encumbrance penalty. For instance, full plate is normally a -6. Not a big problem, -6. Even though that is a big problem because it's a big penalty. But when you're swimming, that 6 becomes a 12. For instance, one of the people that was playing in one of my games had big bulky armor and a tower shield. So normally his armor check penalties was an overall 10. Well, not 10, an overall 14, because he had a -4 from his armor and a -10 from the tower shield. So he couldn't sneak to save his life. His high checks suffered, his most science checks, boom. But his swim checks were, I'm either taking this stuff off or I'm not swimming, because that 14 turned into a -24. So it didn't matter the fact that he was a fighter who had a decent strength and a bunch of points in it. There's nothing he could do other than start investing heavily in a crap ton of feats, or simply not utilizing something that's keeping him alive in order to swim. So armor can literally cause your character to drown. And yes, you can drown. Because it simply states right here, if you fail by 5 or more, you go under. If underwater, either because you failed a swim check or because you are swimming underwater intensely, you must hold your breath. That is a declared action, by the way. If you do not declare you're holding your breath, you're not holding your breath. So if you suddenly go under, you're going under without your holding your breath. So it's always smart to declare that you are holding your breath, or at least on the start of each turn while you're above water, say you're taking a breath and boom, because even Olympic swimmers, while they're swimming at the surface, will occasionally pop their head up, boom, because the head is technically underwater, but they're not necessarily submerged. And if you're trying to wonder how long you can hold your breath, it tells you right there. You can hold your breath for a number of rounds equal to your Constitution score, but only if you do nothing other than take a move action or a free action. If you take a standard action or a full round action, such as making an attack, the remainder of the duration on which you can hold your breath is reduced by 1. Effectively, a character in combat can hold their breath for only half as long as normal. After that period of time, you must make a DC Constitution check. Okay, one game. I want to pull skill and see what. How ridiculous can one be with one particular skill? Oh, it can be quite ridiculous. With taking the limitation of max ranks, which is 3 plus your level, it is easy to max out a skill straight from the get-go. Now, if you're trying to constantly just keep that up, not counting feats or your stats, you can constantly and consistently dump 1 point each new level into it. So at level 1, you can have a +4, which is really good because not counting anything else, it's a +4. By the time you're level 20, you can have a 23. Now, again, that's not counting skills. Well, not skills. That's not counting synergy bonuses. That's not counting feats. That's not counting magical items. So if you're trying to mid-max, like absolutely positively mid-max into making sure that you have the best skill, because we're talking about swim, there's multiple feats and multiple things that can be taken to make your swim ridiculous. There's 2 feats that augment how long you can hold your breath. And they stack with one another. So if you have one, your hold breath is a 3, and the other one is a 4. So they technically do stack. So you can end up getting one another. So you can end up, if you have both of them, a ×6. So you can hold your breath for a while. That does help you with all your checks because now you're not worried about going under. But one of those feats gives you a +4, and another one lets you move at a faster rate. So you can use a move action to move at pretty much. I'm trying to remember without having to look it up. Yeah, you use a move action to move at half speed and a full round action to move at full speed. So with those feats there, instead of it being equal to your con score, it's now way higher than that, and you're getting a +4, and you can move faster, and you have to have a certain amount of ranks in that skill to pull those off. So if you do everything right, you can end up having a ridiculous bonus. With your only limitation, your only cap being 3 plus your level. So it's easy to pull there. It's easy to do it. It's easy to go to not put that skills in it for a couple of levels, and then once you gain a new level, you can go, oh, I want this to be maxed now, and suddenly it's maxed because you have the skill points to pull it off. Now, like I said, there is a feat out there that can help increase how many ranks you can put into it, but that's an expanded feat that we'll go into on a later basis. But it is real easy to just dump them in a single point. And my recommendation is, if you want to be good at a skill starting off, max it out. If you want to continue to stay good at it, keep it maxed with each level. If you don't want to worry about it for a while because you got it high enough, does you have a big enough bonus, go 2, maybe 3 levels before putting it back up again. But yeah, it can be quite easy to just mid-max the skill. So yeah, it can get quite ridiculous because you're just doing it. But thank you for that comment. Under specials for it, because like right here, there it goes in specials. The athletics feat gives you additional +2 to the check. If you have endurance, you get a +4 on the check to avoid taking non-lethal damage from fatigue. Creatures with a swim speed can go through water as if indicated speed without making the check. They also get a 8 racial bonus on swim checks to perform special actions or avoid hazards. The creature can also take 10 on swim checks, and that's the indicated. Yeah. A creature can use the run action while swimming, provided that it swims in a straight line. Reason why that's mentioned there is while you're swimming, you cannot take the actual run action. What the run action is a 4-run action. You can run up to 4 times your base speed. Because you don't have normally a swim speed, you cannot do those such actions, even if you have the feet run, which makes it up to a times 5. You're limited to the distance being either a move action or full round action. So only creatures with the swim speed, which one of my favorite player races that I'm using in my expanded stuff does have a swim speed, which is hilarious. So like if someone's playing that, they have a swim speed, therefore they can run. If you don't have a swim speed, you cannot run. But it is one of the skills that you, with or without armor, you want to keep it high. Because the base thing is making sure you can beat, no matter what you roll, first calm water, you're not getting a 5 or less. And then going, okay, let's get it so that way we don't have to worry about rough water. Because once you get around 6, calm water is not that big of a problem. You just failed to move that turn. Rough water, once you get to 11, again, you're not risk of drowning, you're just moving forward. Stormy weather, you have to get it to at least 16 in order to not worry about going under. You just have to worry about not making progress. So to pretty much sum it up, it is one of those skills that unless the DM is actively going out of his way to not make it a thing, put stuff in it, even if it's an occasional 1 or 2 points. It's good to have something in it, especially to counteract your armor for the pop-up occasion where you actually have to swim. Because drowning does suck. It's a painful thing for anyone to go through in or out of games, and it can easily cause the death of a character. You can, because when we get to the section about drowning, yeah, it blows. So I don't recommend it. At this note, we will call it I'll call it to an end. For those who watch, thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Join us next week as we continue to finish off talking about skills. Remember to like and subscribe.